Okay, what is a salesperson? In this video, I'm literally just going to teach you what 90% of everything that you really need to know to make a lot of money doing sales within your business or for someone else. The other 10% of stuff is basically, guys will just make you pay tens of thousands of dollars for and won't make you much money or won't make that much of a difference. Just get good at the 90% here, pretty much. By the way, I myself, I'm a high ticket closer, which means I do sales and make a decent amount of money. Currently, I sell B2B marketing services. Here's some photos of me in Miami and in Toronto and at the office, mastermind events, so on and so forth. Within a year and a half of doing this full time, I've made some decent money, more than I would if I was still doing construction, which I was doing before. Last month, I made $15,500. These are the screenshots from my Excel or my Google Sheets, where the sum is for this tracker and then plus 6,000, 15.5. If you watch this whole video, I promise you're going to understand what sales is, and you're going to have a much better idea of how to actually do it. So just grab a pen and paper, let's learn. Or you could just stay the same, up to you. Number one, what is sales? So sales or sale is a noun, right? The act of selling specifically, but okay, I'm not going to go into the definition. You can read it right here. What do you sell? Like what are you supposed to sell is the question. Two things. One is products. Number two is services. Right? Products can include a bunch of different things: cars, clothing, phones, oil, air conditioning, tools, furniture, surgical equipment, electricity, house, so on and so forth. Products, right? Like stuff you touch and feel, and like this microphone is an example and whatnot. And then services, like mowing the lawn, filing taxes for someone, being a personal trainer, marketing for a business, medical care, massaging someone, financial advisory, consulting of any kind, being an employee, literally like being an employee, a bunch of other stuff. Um, Technically, there are a few more like mini categories, like digital products, which is actually what most coaching and mentorships and like online info products are, which is what I sell. So digital products, it kind of just goes into services, to be honest. And then financial assets like stocks and stuff like that, and then intangibles, which is like licenses and stuff like that. But sales are literally just everywhere, right? I want you to focus on a conversation that a salesperson has with a prospect to get them to buy, and obviously, make the salesperson more money. That's what we're going to focus on. Like, what is the conversation and that good stuff. Also, I want to mention that we're focusing on selling services. Why services, you might ask? Well, here's why we're not focused on products. I'll kind of explain it in reverse. Because products sell themselves. Not always, but most of the time. What do I mean by this? When you buy products, they are tangible. This means that buying that you're buying because you can hold the items in your hand. Oftentimes, you can hold it in your hands before you even buy it. Why does that matter? Don't get me wrong, you can always get, you can get somebody to help you, buy something bigger, better, sexier, like a luxury car, for example. Or you don't really need it. Someone's gonna like get you to buy it. It's still a product. But however, the prospect, which is like, someone who's ready to buy something, a potential customer, can still see, feel, touch, smell the product. This means one important thing. Most people buy products that they're already sold on. Like a kid like dreaming about a Nintendo Switch. He's already sold on it, right? Like the salesperson in the store isn't really, you don't need one. You just need an order taker, right? Although this can be true for services where people can like just want to come in and buy and they're already sold. Services are intangible. You can't touch them, hold them, smell them, and more and more, sorry, before you swipe your card. You can't do any of that stuff before you swipe your card. You're pretty much trusting that someone will do a good job to get you the outcome that you're looking for. Let's say I want to sell you like financial planning as a service, right? Great example. I'm going to calculate your earnings and your spending. I'm going to come up with a plan to make more, to make you like, make more money than spend less, and pretty much invest and then make money passively. I'm going to charge you $500 an hour to do this. And this is not easy work, and I'm an expert. Now, if I have at least 2 hours a month of your life, or excuse me, to work on your file, I'm gonna, most likely help you save between $50 to $30,000 per year, right? Per month within about a year. So it's a lot of savings because I save you money and you make more money, right? But I need to work for at least 2 hours a month. Let's say that's the scenario. Did I lose you? $500 an hour? Yeah, no chance. As a financial planner, you make people's lives better because they're busy, they're uneducated. Frankly, they need some leadership in terms of their finances. You enjoy your job, you know you can make great money, but you have no clue how to sell your service. You live in fight or flight. Your own finances are low and you can't even afford a nice dinner once a month, let alone the Mercedes that you want. It's okay, you tell yourself, I don't need that stuff anyways. Because you're unskilled in sales, you've rejected yourself of something that you honestly deserve. Selling services isn't impossible, but it's harder because it's intangible. People need to see and feel the future the way they do with products to swipe their card. My goal with you is simple. I want to teach you a sales framework that if you memorize and practice, you will make a lot more money. But wait, why don't I just sell products? Many reasons. I think most of you watching this channel aren't business owners, or at least big business owners. You probably don't make insane amounts of money. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching. And I might be wrong, but I think most of you probably aren't like, millionaires. Why does this matter? Like, why am I talking about this? I think some of you might be seeing where I'm going with this. Products are physical, they must be produced. Okay. I want to ask you, do you have $10,000 to go play with and innovate and create a really good mattress or desk or iPhone or whatever? No? Well, then you can at least go mow someone's lawn with a $300 lawnmower. Look, I'm not saying products can't pretty much be sold, can never be sold. I'm just saying that unless you want to sell furniture or cars or mattresses and appliances, I don't recommend it, right? Those are the products that you don't need to like go and buy and innovate. You're basically just going to always be an order taker. And if you sell cars, you shouldn't be watching, or I want to say, shouldn't you be watching an Andy Elliott video right now? Well, also don't get offended by this, right? But back to my goal. You're going to learn how to sell services using this framework. If you want to get a girl to like you want to get that job and ace the interview, you want to close that guru and having you take sales calls for him, or you just want to close deals for mentorships and just get a job, right? You want to maybe mow your neighbor's lawn or sell your personal training services. You want to be a math, science, language tutor, something else. You want to sell some kind of service. This is what it's going to teach you, right? What I need you to understand is kind of the most basic concept in sales. It is the gap or the situation, the problem solution gap. Most people are on the left here. They're in a current situation where they're at in life, and they are trying to kind of get to the other side of this, this gap, this area, which is their goals. It's the life that they want. And your goals, your job is pretty much to bridge the gap. Your solution, your product, your service, it's always a service usually, not always, but oftentimes, should be the bridge to that gap. Now, these goals are usually not very tangible. They're much more emotional, but I'll get into that in a second. Right before I give away the entire formula, though, like step by step, let me give you some very important information about human psychology and what makes people do things. Number one, people will only buy if they can feel the outcome of your service. What is the outcome? Look, this next part is very important. The outcome is not 100% tangible. I already gave it away ahead of time. All right, let's give you an example. Let's say a fat guy stumbles into like a gym. Yesterday I walked into the gym to look around. I always wanted a six pack. Always. The guy at the front desk asked me if I'm a member, and I said I'm not. He asked, "What brings you in?" I lied. I said, "I don't know. Just thought I'd check it out." He laughed. You could tell I was overweight. It was obvious. He says, "Gotcha, man. And if you don't mind me asking, what's the reason you wanted to just check it out?" And I told him the truth. I said, "Well, I just, want to start going to the gym a little more often. Maybe get a six pack." I joked and laughed. He looked at me without smiling. Like he was almost disappointed in me. He said, "People don't usually come into the gym to get into worse shape, but you mentioned the six pack. And when you get to the point where you walk around with a six pack on your stomach in the mirror on the beach, what would seeing and knowing that actually feel like?" Let's stop right there. The sale is nowhere near done, but what did I just do? Or what did the sales guy just do? He just had the prospect feel the outcome of the service, of what he kind of wants to do. It's now real, it's personal, it's impossible to ignore. He wants a six pack. But it's not about the six pack, it's about how he will see himself and how others will see him with that six pack. Here's how it kind of works. The subconscious thought process kind of looks like this. Man, oh man, I can't get laid. No women ever look at me. My friends all make fat jokes on Friday nights and I feel worthless. I hate looking in the mirror. I'm so ugly. That's just what your brain is thinking, right? Last week, my best friends invited me to the beach. I said I was sick, but in reality, I didn't want to go because I was embarrassed of how big I've gotten. I told them I was on a diet, and they'll know it's not true. Maybe if I got a six pack, I can finally get laid. I look way better. I can look in the mirror. I can feel good about myself, do better at my job, make more money. I could probably travel then, see my family more, and start a family, and frankly, live happily ever after. Maybe if I go to the gym and I pay a lot of money for a program, I'll finally take it seriously and, get in shape and lose the weight and get a six pack. A lot of you guys are thinking right now, if that's the thought process they go through, all because of how you do your sales job, you're going to say, wow, how manipulative. Point A, if you had to manipulate your mom or dad into taking Lyme disease treatment to save their life, would you do it? I know, extreme example, but if you had to manipulate them into it, would you do it? Probably, yeah. That's what I thought. B, if that's what you're thinking, wow, how manipulative. I think you clicked on the wrong video. But otherwise, keep watching if you want to master manipulating people. The next part of the sales formula is their current situation and what they're actively trying and doing to change their situation. Now, why does this matter? Well, before you make them swipe their card, you need to find out why what they just told you is not yet real life for them. What does this mean? Well, let's say the person in our example has done nothing to change their situation. They're 300 pounds, they don't diet, they don't work out, they don't even think about it often. If the person has done nothing, well, they will continue to do nothing for one simple reason. They're doing nothing because of their beliefs. And there should not be a question mark here. If I didn't believe, just for example, that I would survive a jump between two buildings, what are the odds that I jump? Newsflash, it's 0%. It's always going to be 0% for most people, unless you have a death wish. Now, if I knew that I would 100% survive for certain, what are now my chances of jumping? Somewhere between 1% and 99%. Nothing in life is ever 100%, and you got to tell your prospects this, right? The reason why, actually, quick snippet, is in objection handling, when they give you an excuse not to do it because they're not 100% certain, you got to remind them that no one is ever 100% certain on anything in life. Anyways, you must believe you can to start taking action. Now, back to our example. Our fat friend has been doing nothing because deep down, he doesn't believe he can achieve the six pack of abs. Oh man, I don't believe I can get there. That's not for me. I can't get it, whatever. Now, this is the real sales part right here. This is the most important part. If you leave the video, all of this is literally useless unless you watch the next part. Quite literally, like everything you watched up until this point doesn't matter. There's 3 steps to the real part of like a sales call that matters right here. Number 1, you identify the limiting belief. Number two, you gain a commitment to change. And number 3, you ask them why. So I'm going to walk you through it. Number 1, you must identify the limiting belief with the person. Either have them tell you or you point it out to them. There's no alternative. Here, let's kind of go through it. For example, Mr. Prospect, how long has this been a goal of yours? Let's say they talk to you about like getting a six pack. 2 years. Okay, over the past 2 years, what has held you back or slowed you down from already having a six pack? They're either going to answer honestly and they're going to tell you, man, I haven't believed in myself. I didn't think it was possible. I've been lazy. I've been procrastinating, whatever. Or they're going to give you an excuse, which is way more common. I haven't had the time. I don't got the money to buy a membership. My friends and family, they just, they keep me like so busy and that just wasn't a priority, whatever. If they give you an excuse, you simply call their bluff. You ask them, what makes you think anything will be different now? Right? You assume the person wants to make a change. You assume the person is there to, break this habit of failure or whatever. You have to assume it because if you don't, then they're just going to walk out. So you say, "Hey, well, what makes you think that anything will be different now?" You say you like haven't had the time over the past 2 years. Well, what's different today? Like after all, they came in today. They're on the call with you today. They booked an appointment today, probably not just to talk, but to like do something, right? They will either give you a legitimate reason, like they just woke up from a coma, right? But that's no one's ever going to tell you that. It's always going to be an excuse. They're going to give you BS like, "Oh yeah, now it's just important to me," or "I saw the ad," or something like that. This is where stuff gets really important. You have to ask, well, what's made this so important now? Why make the big change today? Here, prospects almost always fault. They say, just because, I mean, I walked by the gym, blah, 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 blah. And this is where you do what's very important. Here's where you help make this limiting belief conscious, or you make them conscious of their limiting belief. Here's where you call them out and identify what's held them back. You ask, "Mr. Prospect, can I make an observation without you getting upset with me?" In short, you're going to tell them, "Can you see you're stopping yourself, fat ass?" In long, you're going to say, "A lot of people that have, come into this gym and gotten their dream bodies were in a spot where, I mean, they had all these different things holding them back from getting in shape. And so they did nothing." Like, do you know who held them back the whole time in every single scenario? It was them. They held themselves back from becoming who they were always meant to be. They made excuses, they ignored it, they procrastinated. They were truly the only ones holding themselves back. Is it fair to say that you've held yourself back a bit from getting the six pack over the past 2 years, this whole time? Now, if the person doesn't agree and they keep on giving you excuses, well, they're probably a really bad lead who has such a broken mindset that even Jordan Belfort couldn't sell them. But they should have some kind of agreement with you, right? And you don't always have to ask it as directly, but you can say, "Hey," like this is just off the script here. You can say, "Hey, like it seems like there's definitely been something holding you back." The reason I say that is because most people do, right? Most people tell themselves they don't have the time. They tell themselves they don't have the money. But if we never get over these hurdles, these hiccups, then we're always going to let them stop us. So before we can actually get over a hurdle, we have to identify it. You can literally tell the prospect this, and you can ask them, "Mr. Prospect, between you and me, I just, you can be totally honest, right? Like, what is it that's really been holding you back?" And if they still don't budge and you want to get the answer, I say this later on in this presentation, but using tactical vulnerability, opening up and giving them your own story, right? And just being vulnerable and sharing something more private with them and then asking them again really makes it easy for people to reciprocate and give you their own openness and vulnerability. Step 2, gain a commitment to change. You ask them simply, "How committed are you to drawing a line in the sand?" By the way, this is after they say, "You're right. I've been lazy. I've been procrastinating. No good." You say, "How committed are you to drawing a line in the sand and deciding to finally become the 2.0 version of yourself that doesn't hold yourself back anymore?" They say, "I'm very committed." And you shouldn't be asking, "Are you committed?" That would be a yes or no question. You should be saying, "How committed?" It's like a scale of 1 to 10, right? It's kind of a vague question. There's a million different ways to answer it. It may also sound like it's unclear, but if the person's confused, you can say, "Look, on a scale of 1 to 10, why is it, where are you?" "Oh, I'm a 9." And an interesting question that I actually learned was instead of saying, "Why not a 10?" you say, "Why not lower than a 9?" You once again make them sell themselves on why they made it that high. Maybe it's not a 10 out of 10, but you're really not looking for a 10 out of 10. If you ask a 1 out of 10 question, you want them to say 8, 9, or 10 usually. If it's like 6 or 7, it's a bit of a problem. You can ask them, "Well, what's really holding you back from getting to the 7 or the 8?" And sometimes people aren't going to give you that number. You're going to say, "Well, if it's going to be a 6 or a 7, are you willing, in spite of that uncertainty, to still make a change?" And you're going to want to look for the yes, and then ask them number 3, the why. Why does this matter? This is called a tie down. Basically, when you ask somebody, how important is this to you? Right? How important is it for you to draw the line in the sand and commit to making a change? Oh, it's very important. Well, why? Why is it important? This is where you get somebody to tie down and say yes twice, but in two different ways. And why does this matter? In sales, a yes, not always, but especially in this part of the call, it's like 50% of a real yes. But when you get two yeses, it's like 100% of a yes. I hope you like my sales math. You can ask, well, Mr. Prospect, there's no gun to your head, right? And frankly, there never has been and never will be. Why are you finally committed to actually making a change? The whole interaction this whole interaction here, like that I just walked you through, the most important part of the sales call, where the real sales like activity, the real sales skill is practice. It's called pre-handling objections, shifting beliefs, and a reframing. Those are the three different terms. But this point right here, this is super important because this is where you tell them in a nutshell, right? Prospects will tell you, oh, I really need to do this. I need to. But if they needed to do it, think about it this way. If they really needed to do it, their situation today is probably not that different from like a day or two or three ago or a week ago. They're probably in a very similar situation. But if they needed to do it, why didn't they do it last week? Like super practically, right? Like if they needed to do something, it would have been done. That means it's never really been a need, and it probably never will be. It will always be more of a want, and that's okay. All you need to do is figure out to them this. You're basically asking them, hey, this is a want, not a need. Why is it worth doing? And they have to sell themselves too. Very, very powerful stuff. The gurus on YouTube aren't going to teach you this stuff. This whole interaction, yeah, I told you, this makes them sell themselves, commit even more, and very importantly, create something to be consistent with. And I'll talk more about consistency soon. Now you're almost done. To save us some time, I'm going to speed run the rest. It's already been a pretty long video. Thank you for watching, so far. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't already. It really means a lot to me. Here are the last parts of the sales call: self-solution selling, future pacing, cost of inaction / consequential questions, pitch, objection handling. Self-solution selling. You make them tell you what they want to buy and why it's important for them personally. I want one-on-one coaching. I want everything done for me. I want things to be done in a week. Pretty much you ask them, hey, Mr. Prospect, there's so many different ways to get you to a certain outcome or a result, right? I'm curious, what is the ideal, system or, support system, the ideal help really look like for you? What is it that you're really looking for, moving forward, possibly working with a team like ours? Simple questions. There's so many different ways to ask it, right? You can always just be like, hey, and just help me understand a little bit better. What is it specifically you're looking for from, a team or a company? This is where that, by the way, if they give you a very vague answer, not the end of the world, you can ask it again. What you're looking for is a prospect who's going to be like, oh, I want exactly this thing. That's very important for you because when you do the pitch, which is later on, I'm not going to skip all the way there. But when you do the pitch, you want to custom tailor it. Number 2, future pace. Make them explain in vivid detail what their tangible goal will do in their personal life, and then how this is going to affect them day to day, their family, their friends, their situation, etc. You pretty much just want to make them emotional. Like, make the person paint the picture of their dreams and how their life is going to be super different when they're making 30K a month, when they are traveling, when they are, fit again, when they are speaking a different language, whatever you're selling, right? Once they get the outcome, they get the result they're looking for. How does that result of having that in their life, how does it change their life? How does that feel? How does it impact them, right? Cost of inaction, you're stepping them down. They're in a state of hope and they're in the state of seeing the future. Before you ask the person pretty much a very, very a very non-typical question, which is like, hey, what happens if you don't do this? Right? It's not an everyday kind of question that people ask because, your friends don't usually say, hey, what happens if you don't do this? It's not common. But there's a cost of inaction, right? There's an opportunity cost to not starting something today. It's like, let's say I want to get fit. Once again, I keep using this example, and I waited a year to buy a fitness program, and then I did nothing for a year. Well, what is that costing me? It's a year of, being confident in myself, being happy in the mirror, going to the beach with my friends, whatever, getting laid, whatever you want it to be. It's a year of missing out on that, right? But instead of just asking, them a question, hey, where do you want to be in the future? What happens if you don't get there? You ask them a step down question, and you step down again, right? And it says it right here. Most people are motivated by pain, not pleasure, or more by pain than pleasure. So after figuring out their goals, there's two simple questions you ask. You step down to their current situation by saying, with how you're doing things now, right? The systems, the habits, the actions they're taking. You've already established this, by the way. You already know what the answer is, but you have to ask this. With how you're doing things now, how close are you to getting to, your goal of six packs, of getting a six pack as quickly as you want to? They're usually just gonna be like, not close whatsoever, or I don't think I'm ever gonna get there, which is what you want. If they don't give you that answer, I'm sorry. You have to re-ask the question one more time. And if they still don't give you the right answer, they say something like, oh, I think I'm close, I'm a month away, not a big deal. You lost them. You messed up earlier, and I'm sorry I can't help you. The call's probably dead. Second question, this is the cost of an action question. So you've stepped down and they're now thinking about their current situation and how soon they're going to get to their goals if they keep on doing the same thing. Now you're going to ask them what happens if they don't do anything at all, right? Or if they don't make a change. You say, what does life look like if you don't end up making any change and have things keep on going the way they are now? Right? This question is meant to evoke pain when the prospect visualizes what life in their current situation, continued for a long time, will feel like. This should motivate them to act if done right. Pretty much, you're asking the fat guy to imagine being fat for another year. It's not fun. Next is the pitch. You want to explain your service using three main points. You want to make it as clear as possible. You want to use the least amount of words possible, typically under 5 minutes if possible. I'm using that word a lot, possible. Sorry. And last but not least, sell the destination, not the plane ticket. So you know what the outcome, what the results the person's looking for. You know what the emotional impact it's going to have. Your goal is not to sell the person, oh, yeah, we're going to do like, coaching calls with you, and you're gonna have a one-on-one group chat. You have to show them what having this deliverable, like group calls, what does that mean? Well, having group calls means you're gonna learn from others, you're gonna have a community, you're gonna have a sense of accountability, and all this is gonna lead you to learning much, much faster than other people and faster than you ever would by yourself, which means you're gonna be able to make $30,000 not in like a year, the way some people do if they just watch courses and go through YouTube University. You're probably gonna get there like this and this and this student, which did it in 3 months, right? And like for you, I know you said that in 3 months, like you want to be going on like that vacation, doing that. Now that might be overcooking it a bit, but I hope you understand the idea. You're not selling them on how good your Zoom call is. It's about what does that Zoom call do to get them to their desired outcome. Objection handling. If pretty much after this right here, you do a price drop. Yeah, Mr. Prospect. Yes, Mr. Prospect. Do you have any questions? Do you feel like this is the right fit for you? Why do you feel it is? Awesome. Well, it's going to be $10,000. How would you like to proceed? Objection handling. If they say money is stopping them, it's always logistical. It's just about like moving money or whatever else. It's logistical, which you want to hope for. If there's any objection, you want to hope that they've got money in another account and you can put down a deposit with them and then, get them to pay the rest later. Or maybe they need to like get paid next month, but they can do like 80% today. That's the goal. If they say anything else, it's a smokescreen and they're experiencing fear. One thing to remember though, sometimes people can say something like, hey, I want to move my money around, but that can also be a smokescreen. It might not be true. They might be lying. Or they might say that and pretend it's logistical when there's an underlying fear, which is really, really common. Like I want most of the time for you guys to assume the prospect is fearful. That doesn't mean like you can't take the payment. Some people are laydowns, but like assume they're fearful and I promise it'll help you. The biggest fear for most people is just two things: losing money, right? So like, oh my God, that money's leaving my bank account, and then failing. So like, it's not even like losing the money. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fail. All you need to do, all you need to get from the person is this. Do you feel that this is the answer for you and why? So like right after they give you their objection, oh yeah, I want to think about it. Oh yeah, it's a lot of money. Just give me a couple weeks. Not a problem whatsoever. And by the way, can I ask, do you feel that like with everything that I covered here in terms of our system and process, this is the answer for you? Okay. Do you mind if I ask why? Make them explain not why the program sounds good, but why the outcome and the results of the program are worth it and that they believe they will get there. Sorry. I didn't mean like what, why do you feel like the program is the answer for you? I mean like why is this like, worth it for you? Like, why is it that, like, you feel like you're actually gonna get to, like, those 30K months with, like, what we're doing here, right? And, like, what impacts is actually gonna, like, have on you? Do you feel like we can get you there? Gotcha. You don't want them to say, "Oh, I like the gym equipment," or "The trainer seems good." You want them to give you more of an answer like, "I feel amazing." "I'll feel amazing about myself if I do this program," or, like, "I'll finally be confident enough to date again." Like, that's the emotional answer, which is way more important than, like, "Oh, the trainer seems good." Well, a lot of different trainers seem good, and plenty of different programs. Many gyms have great equipment. It's specifically, you need them to be confident in the outcome. No, no, I totally hear you, Mr. Prospect, and, like, yeah, the program's great. I guess I'm just wondering, like, why do you feel that you're gonna be able to get to XYZ goal with our help? And if they ever give you uncertainty, you ask them, like, if they give you any kind of, like, I don't know," you say, "Well, what's making you uncertain? What makes you feel like you won't get to this goal?" Very important question. When they give you negative, you give them a negative question. When they give you positive, give them a positive question. Second question is, or sorry, second part is, you pretty much just say the two main things that people are afraid of, right? Finances and then failure. You say, if we were to, eliminate finances from the equation, would you do this? Like, would you get started today? Right? It's like asking, if this is free, would you do it? And then you have to ask them why. The reason you ask why is because most things that people pay for, even services, still take time, energy, effort. It takes a commitment. Like, you need them to once again explain to you, if it isn't a case for, like, spending $5,000, why is it worth it to do this? And if they can give you a great reason, then you can say, well, hey, is it fair to say that, like, it's kind of a case of, like, money for you? Yeah, like, what's it a case of? You've got the money and it's like a little bit, like, nervous to get started. You've got some of it, not all of it. Got to figure out how to get the rest, or, like, we got to go rob a bank together, right? Asking a question like that can isolate the money objection and figure out where they're at. And if they tell you they got all the money, great. You got to work on the fear a little bit more. All right. And the second question is the same thing. It's just, hey, like, if you knew, you wouldn't fail, would you do it? Okay. But, like, why would you do it though? Right. Like, remember, like, this isn't a thing where, like, you need to do it. It's more like, why are you willing to go out of your way and show up to calls and join our program and get in the gym and spend 6 months doing it? Like, why is doing all that worth it for you, even if you knew you couldn't fail? All right. I hope you guys see, like, why I'm doing all this. All these questions are meant for them to sell themselves. Most people in objection handling just start yelling at their prospect, trying to convince them to do it. No, do not do that. Have them sell themselves. Take things easy, detach, forget about the money. Here, you just want to have a direct, straightforward conversation. Lastly, it's the last part really of objection handling. Without telling them, you want to make them tell you what is the best position that you can put yourself. This is what you're asking them, sorry. What is the best position you can put yourself in right now so that when you go to sleep tonight, you're a step closer to your goal? If they want time to think about it, I want you to come up with 3 different ways of telling the prospect they're procrastinating using analogies and questions. I'm getting tired of writing this course, and now I'm getting tired of reading it. Look, I'm just putting it this way. You need them to realize that no matter how long they wait, no matter how scared they are, no matter what, if you and them are on the same page, and most importantly them, if you can agree that this program, what they're trying to buy, is what is most important for them to do to get to their goals, and their goals are important enough for them, which you've probably established they are, and then the question is, you have to ask them and you have to kind of slap them with this, and do not be afraid of being direct. The biggest thing that's going to lose you sales is you don't put your balls on the table. Be honest, be straightforward. Tell them sometimes, can I make an observation without you being upset with me? I'm feeling a lot of hesitancy and fear, and that's totally okay. But with the people that I've personally worked with and the people I've seen come into this program, I know this may sound unprofessional. This may not be like what I should be doing, but I can tell you 110% every single part of me is totally confident that not only can we help you, right, but we can get you probably some of the best results that we've seen for people. And I don't want you to just misuse that. But things like that are really direct. And you can call them out. You can end that off by saying, you can decide to move forward today. Oh, no, sorry. You can say, you can decide to just keep on kicking this down the road and procrastinating, because both you and I know That's what's happening here because of that fear, that discomfort of making a big change, which is what's really held you back before, right? Who is it that's been holding you back this whole time? It's been me, Mr. Michael. That's right. Or you can decide to take that uncomfortable step, get over the hurdle, and do what's going to get you closer to your goal, right? And that's where I'm going to end it off. Last but not least, here's what you need to do to make all of this easier. You can skip this if you want to make less money, okay? Reciprocity, real reciprocity. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. Literally just open up about yourself and use tactical vulnerability. That is the most important way to use this part. So you can tell like a quick sad story about yourself and then how you felt about it. And then if you do that yourself, when you're trying to get the prospect to open up, they're going to open up themselves and tell you more about their situation and the pain they feel. Next is consistency. So basically humans are biased to be consistent, right? It's like if you tell somebody, no, not that they're 6 feet, and then you tell them they're 5'11", like, there's inconsistency there. They're not gonna take you seriously. You're not gonna tell someone, "Oh, I'm 6 feet," and then, like, an hour later, you're gonna be like, "No, I told you I'm 5'11". That's inconsistency. Maybe that's a really bad example, but you get the point. This puts others in danger because you are giving them unreliable information, which will get you kicked out of your tribe, and this will mean that you'll starve and die. So, at least back in the old days, that's what it meant. So this is why we get tie downs and why we ask open ended questions where it's harder to lie. If you ask yes or no questions, which are closed ended questions, it's easy to lie. But when it's open ended, it's harder. So when people give you more ammo and they give you more information, they are going to want to naturally stay consistent to it. That's why we open up the sales call, right? Very quickly talking about like their goals, where they want to be, what they're looking for help with, what their situation is, and what they've done so far to get there, right? And then when they commit to the change and you tie down and you ask them why they're committed, there should be a lot of consistency, right? That's the point. That's why they call it pre-handling objections. Social proof. Basically, just make sure you add case studies and testimonials to your marketing material and your sales funnel, because our monkey brains, they do things when they see other people do it. Millions of examples of this. Authority. You know how, like when you get pulled over by a cop. I never actually had this happen, knock on wood, in my life. You're usually not arguing, but like listening and trying to be honest, answering questions. Same with a doctor. All right, same with the doctor. Yeah, same thing. I'm writing this because it's like 11:30 p.m. at night. But authority is a thing. You don't need to be a bully, but you need to have control on a sales call, which simply means just you decide the pace and you ask almost all the questions. Liking. This is very simple. People are influenced by those they like. Hot girls are great at selling for this exact reason, or they're pretty good at selling. Simple Simply just mirror your prospect in speech, so, like, kinda copy them, right? Not in, like, overboard way. Copy their body language, their tone, all that kind of stuff. This is just gonna short circuit the person's brain, your prospect, and they're gonna see you as way more similar, and they're gonna like you more than probably buy from you. Scarcity. So, basically, humans act when there is a high demand but low supply. Remember the toilet paper crisis of 2022? Um, COVID, but it was really just a toilet paper crisis. That's really what it was. Um, that's all you needed to remember. By the way, fake scarcity doesn't work. Unity. It's just similar to social proof. Like people do things when they are a part of a specific group and mimic their actions. So like labeling somebody as an action taker or as like someone who's brave, let's say, early on in the call. Hey, by the way, like I can tell that you're an action taker, right? Just because like you're on this call, and hey, don't get me wrong, like there's a lot more you'd have to do after this call, but like you'd be surprised how many people don't even like jump on this call in the first place, man. So like you're doing more than most as of right now, right? Something like that. That might be a bit too much, but verbal, cues and verbal labels are very important. This is verbal hypnosis, by the way, when you label people and whatnot. Anyways, I'm done. Now that you know what sales is, last but not least, where do sales calls come in during the sales process for a business? AIDA is what happens for most customers, and it's like what they go through. So this is the last part. I promise. I'm almost done. I can't wait to finish this video. Awareness. Someone goes like, "Dang, some people are so fit." Interest. What's it like to be fit? Desire. I want to be fit. And then action. I'm going to go speak to the gym guy so I can get fit. Example time. Awareness. So let's say I tried to take care of my lawn, but my job just made me work 5 more hours a week. I see some of my neighbors, have some very nicely trimmed lawns. I know they're busy too. How are they doing it? Desire. I see an ad put up of a lawn mowing service showing the before and after of lawns, and it says in bold letters, call us, will be done in 30, contactless. As they drive by, they see the back, or I see the back of the sign, and it shows a bunch of photos of lawns they've serviced in the area, and it says proudly serving 5,000 customers. Action. By the way, that's a little bit of social proof right there, if you didn't notice it. They pull over the car, stop the call, stop the car. I pull over the car, I stop the car, and I call the number on the back of the sign. I spend 5 minutes on the call with the sales guy, and although I don't want a sales pack, you find out that I have the time to fit in, or I don't have the time to fit in, um, like my neighbors or their beautiful yards. Sorry, I don't know why I wrote this so weirdly. Anyways, as a salesperson, you quote them $50 and then you give them a 50% off discount because they're a new customer and you only give them that if they buy now. That's also scarcity. You're now on their way to mow their lawn. So if you're reading this, you could have just muted me there. I'm just writing it from the POV of a salesperson. Anyways, that's how it happens. Imagine the same thing, but with Instagram and YouTube and Facebook ads that lead people into a web page and then a questionnaire, and then they watch testimonials and videos that teach them something. Usually, they teach them like a little bit of what they need to know, not all of it. And then all of it's going to be behind the paywall where they have to pay and swipe their card. And they always have the option to schedule a discovery call, which is really just a sales call. Anyways, I'm done. Follow me here and follow me here or subscribe there. If you have any questions, you must comment. Thank you for watching. That is it.